What's up, guys? New Needs Media here, coming at you with another GOAT deck profile. I decided to update my Thunder Dragon Chaos deck before we get into any of the other decks that I'm currently working on. Warrior and then Apprentice Chaos as well. Duels of those videos are on the channel if you want to take a look at them. But I figured we'd just get right into this list. This list is really explosive. This is the Turbo variant, not the Control variant. No Merchants, though, because we play 3 Thunder Dragon. You don't want to mill this card off Merchant. So this is kind of the heart and soul of the Light Engine. Really cool. Allows you to play cool cards like Raigeki Break. Still 3 Moth. I really like 3 Moth. You want to see this before you see Knock. And I really like this card in this deck at 3. Because if you resolve 1 and then you keep it in your graveyard and then they knock you like a second one or you knock them and you lose the other 2, they'll like set cards thinking that you can't have you storm them a second time. Think, oh, it's out of play, and then you Night Assailant for this card back, and like, oh, I should have played around it. It's really kind of cool. So I like that interaction. Down to 2 Dekoichi from 3. There were a bunch of other cards that I really wanted to play, so I had to take one out. It was sided out most of the time. It was a safe side out for the third one. You can also safe side out this one as well if there's other monsters you want to play. And then the 2 Night Assailants. Again, you can loop it with your discard cards, so you can kind of loop this card, get the other one, get them off. With the first one, it is a really cool card, and you do discard a lot, so this is kind of a way to keep everything fresh. 1 Cyberjar. I didn't think I'd like this, and it is really fun. It is really, it doesn't resolve too often, but it is a really good card if your opponent is not expecting it, especially if you're in like a comeback state. You really need like comeback cards and things like that. So this is a really good card to do that off of. I'm main decking 1 Kaiku. I kind of wanted to main deck both, but Chaos has just seemed to be so relevant everywhere that this card is just really good. I do side the second one, but this is in... it's good to have a big beat stick as well. I noticed myself that like there was a lot of times where I couldn't put pressure on my opponent, especially turn 1. There are a lot of times where we'd have like a clear board state, and all I could do was like set Dekoichi or set him off, and I wanted to put pressure on my opponent. So this is kind of an extra good normal summon and beat stick to put pressure on your opponent. Some staple stuff. We have 1 Sangan. We have the Water Package, Tribe, and Serpent. We do play 1 Tsukiyomi. It is good to have more than just your Chaos monsters in terms of outs to Thousand Eyes, and because you can abuse all of your flips in this. We play 3 books, so we don't need 2 of these. And then, because the book is a little bit more versatile, and it doesn't eat your normal summon. 1 Breaker. I did add 1 Priest. People are always iffy on like Priest being like a light. You're like, oh, you need more lights, you can play Priest, because it's like, oh, but the card's going to go back to your hand. It doesn't hit the grave. Obviously, there's stuff like Saku and Mirror Force and Torrential that'll cause it, Ring. But you also, whenever it comes back to your hand, that is a card that is guaranteed to be able to discard for a card like Raigeki Break. So if you're summoning this card, and you're like, I need to make sure that, you know, my opponent can't attack me, I can summon this and set Raigeki Break, and even if those are the only 2 cards, I can set Raigeki Break, and Priest will come back to my hand, and that card is live. So, just another interaction with that. 1 BLS and 3 Sorcerer. These are your Chaos monsters. Obviously, BLS can just steal games by himself. You can side one of these out, especially if you see something like Dust Shoot, because these can tend to sit in your hand game 2 and 3. So if you see Dust Shoots in the side, maybe consider siding one of these out, especially if you know they're going to be siding Kaiku, or if you're going to see maybe a Necro Valley or something like that. Those cards can really hurt you in that regard. But we do play a lot of side hate for decks that can side Necro Valley and things like that. And that is the entire monster lineup. For spells, we have the 1 of Card Destruction. It's obviously it's hand correction, but because you have things like Thunder Dragon, Serpent, and your 2 Night Assailants, you can kind of plus off this card, and then if your opponent is clearly like holding BLS, you can just knock it out of their hand and kind of go from there. Snatch and Duo. These cards self-explanatory. We don't play Premium anymore because we play the 3 Chaos monsters. Premium just isn't. It just isn't as good. 2 Knock staple. We have the 3 books. Again, this is defense and offense. The idea that you can reuse your monsters and your flip effects. So you can just be like Moth, flip them off, get pot, book it, and then play pot again or whatever. So you have your draw cards. Graceful, Pot of Greed. And then the last two spells, Heavy and Space. I've seen some builds, main deck 1 Wing Blast instead of Space, which necessarily isn't bad, because Wing Blast deals with game 1 Kaiku, just for a turn. So if you can like Wing Blast it and then summon your Chaos Sorcerer, you're bigger than Kaiku, so Kaiku's not as relevant, obviously. But I still like 1 Space, because it doesn't cause you to discard, and you don't want too many cards that cause you to lose cards in your hand, because you don't always have that. For traps, 1 Ring, the 3 breaks. So I was playing Wing Blasts, but this card is better game 2 and 3 because you can kill the side deck outs and permanently remove the side deck. Game 1, obviously setting your opponent back with Wing Blast it can also steal games, because if you're in like that simplified game state and they're just stuck drawing cards, that card is obviously better in those scenarios, because not only like if they top deck them off, they're setting them off, and then you're forcing them to set them off again next turn, and you're 1 turn closer to your outs. But I feel like this card deals with problems games 2 and 3 a lot better, so that's why I've opted to go with Break. And then your kind of blowouts, TT, Mirror Forcer, big destruction cards. And I'm going to show the side deck. I'm not 100% on it. There's still a lot of cards that I'm iffy on, I guess. This is like 2 or 1, I'm not really sure. So I have like 5 monsters that I like to side for Warrior, because they want to knock you. So we have the 2 Jujutsus, the 1 Kinetic, and then I really like this card, Double Spy, in that matchup. Some people main this card. This card is really good. But they have the Sasuke that can deal with this as well. But essentially, you'd rather them knock these cards than your other cards, because you can set against them, and they obviously only have the 2 knocks. So I really like these cards against Warrior. This card is good against Monarchs as well, forcing them to top deck it. And then obviously, like randomly, but this card is also better against Benkai, because Kinetic Soldier, they can be bigger than it. Obviously, that deck's not that great, but you want to be able to hit as much as you can with your side deck. You don't want to get caught with your pants down. Second Kaiku. Second Suk for standard. Kaiku's good against obviously all Chaos variants. And then the second Suk. You want to be able to side dark monsters and things like that, because you're going to be siding out Dekoichi, or you're going to be siding out one of your Chaos Sorcerers, so you're going to kind of lose your dark count. And then the last monster, I stopped going with Jinzo, and I went with Mobius instead of Jinzo, because I feel like this card can hit Necro Valley, which is also really important. It also hits Messenger Peace, which is important as well, so that's kind of why I like this. And it helps you can still make your big push because with your Chaos Monsters, because Jinzo isn't like that great, and this card hits Book, and you were seeing Book at 3 and more decks. So if you can force them to trigger Book on this card, then rather than like one of your Chaos Monsters, I feel like that's significantly better. For the Mirror, we have double Mind Control. This is the only spell I side. I really like this card, and it's the Mirror because they have all their flip monsters, so we can Mind Control, take their flip, use it for themselves. So, and it's even like if it's turn 1 and you're taking them off, you can Mind Control and then flip them off and then waste theirs, but you still get the Mind Control back. So this card is live, like immediately. Like the Moth, if you take them off turn 1, it's still live immediately. For traps, again, Mirror, double dust shoot. This card kills the Mirror, so we want to make sure that we're getting cards out of their hand, and Thunder Dragon causes the hand size to be nice and big, so trap dust shoot for the Mirror. 1 Dust Tornado again for Necro Valley and things like that, and Burn. And then these 2 cards also for Burn. I know it's weird to pay 1,000 to stop Burn, but like again, this is also good against like Warrior decks that play like 10, 12 traps. I wanted to play Decree, and I'm kind of like back and forth on Decree with this card, because that card obviously just absolutely annihilates Burn. But it does lock you out of your Raigeki breaks, which you can end phase and do that. So it is kind of, I guess, player preference, but I'm not really sure. You guys can tell me which one you want to play. I have been playing this deck a bunch on Dueling Book and IRL. There's going to be plenty of duels throughout the channel. There's plenty of duels in the comments. So like and subscribe for more retro format content. We do more than GOAT. We play pretty much everything from GOAT all the way to like 2014. And thanks for watching, guys.